Democrats shrink the eligibility for the new stimulus checks, what that means for how much money you'll get. D.C. on alert for another potential riot, and WTF is an NFT. Thursday Need to Know. Let's go. Good morning. This is Cheddar's Need to Know podcast for March 4th. I am Jill Wagner with Carlo Versano. Good morning, Carlo.
How are we today, Jill? How is everybody out there?
I'm looking around. I don't see anybody. I don't know.
I guess that was more of a question for the crowd, which of course cannot answer us. But how are you doing?
I'm okay. This, A-okay. Very hopeful about vaccines, etc. All right, let's start with some news about the stimulus. With President Biden's blessing, Senate Dems will tweak the income eligibility for stimulus checks in order to ensure that they don't lose support from moderates like Joe Manchin, who they do need to keep on board if they want to pass this bill in the 50-50 Senate. So what this means is that Americans earning $75,000 or couples who earn $150,000 will get the full $1,400 per person direct cash payment. But then it disappears entirely for people who earn $80,000 or couples who earn $160,000. Singles making between $80,000 and $100,000 or couples making between $160,000 and $200,000 newly excluded from this benefit.
So nobody negotiates against themselves better than the Democratic Party. It's really amazing. I don't personally have a problem with this because, as I've always said, the checks. I've always thought that the check should be more surgical in terms of like getting aid to people who need it rather than people like me who don't need it at the moment. The thing is, these phase outs, they're a little bit meaningless because it's all based on your 2019 income. And there's a lot of people who had great income in 2019 and now have no income in 2020. Again, I think about my friend Zach, who was just crushing it as a restaurant manager in New York City, making $100K in 2019 and making $0 in the last year. But anyway, that's not. The fact is, what's going to end up happening here is that a lot of it significantly shrinks the pool of people who get the checks, right? 12 million people, according to the estimate that I saw. So 12 million people become ineligible. That's 12 million voters who are going to remember that they got 2 checks from President Trump and 0 checks from President Biden. Needless to say, that's really bad politics. You know, a lot of people aren't paying attention to like every little thing in the stimulus bill, but they do know when they get a check in the mail that has Donald Trump's name on it, and then they get no check that has President Biden's name on it. It's like the last guy we told you was the devil incarnate. But hey, he gave you $2,000. We gave you 0. Vote for us in 2022. So I just, I understand why they have to. They at least believe they have to do it because they really cannot lose people like Joe Manchin. I also don't really understand why Joe Manchin is so against this because so many people in West Virginia need help. But nevertheless, that's where we are.
Let's talk COVID, though. The weekly rolling average for daily vaccinations has now crossed 2 million for the first time, according to the Bloomberg Vaccine Tracker. That is great news. We could feasibly see 3 million daily doses in the next month or two. The CDC is expected to release guidelines for people who have been vaccinated any day. It was supposed to be today, but there is a delay as they finalize the language. Meanwhile, President Biden slammed decisions by the governors of Texas and Mississippi to scrap their mask mandates, calling it, quote, Neanderthal thinking. Houston, now the first U.S. city to record positive tests for every major new variant of the virus. Texas is still recording 7,000 new cases a day.
A little bit of clarity on what we've been saying about the vaccine. And Jill, you tell me if I'm off base here. But because we've gotten some people who have written in and they've been sort of like, you guys keep saying like this is going to be such a good summer. Or, are you underplaying the variants or the issues about people who don't want to get the vaccines. So I want to be a little bit clear, right? The optimism that I feel, at least, it doesn't mean that everything is going to magically go back to normal one day. Yes, you're going to have to wear masks for a while, at least in indoor public settings, probably the rest of the year, I would guess. Even after you're vaccinated, you should do it for one, just because it's courteous, because people don't know if you've been vaccinated, so it's just the right thing to do. And also because we don't know the extent of asymptomatic transmission in vaccinated people. However, we do know that asymptomatic people are already less likely to transmit the virus. And we also know that these vaccines almost certainly reduce transmission at least somewhat. Probably not 100%, because that would give them sterilizing immunity, which almost no vaccine has. That's like almost impossible. But all of this is to say, the bottom line is this. The vaccines greatly reduce the risk of you getting COVID. They basically ensure that if you do get it, you don't get so sick that you need to go to the hospital. And that based on the existing data that we do have, they work at least fairly well against reducing transmission. Those 3 points, I think that's the message. I like tattoo that on my forehead, put that on, that's what Dr. Fauci should be out there saying every day, I think. So what do you think? Is that sort of, do you think I'm on the right track there?
Yeah, I mean, and I think that it falls in line with what we've been talking about regarding the messaging of the vaccines, right? And if you're somebody who is hesitant about getting the vaccine, or maybe you're just like, you don't have hours to sit on the website and hit refresh, right, you might say it's not worth it if you can't do anything differently and if they don't work against the variants and blah, blah, blah. But that is the wrong message, right? And I think we have to all kind of think we're in this together. One of my dad's friends told him he is not going to get the vaccine. He's like, everyone else is getting it. I don't need to get it. And it's like, no, that is the wrong, that is wrong.
That's the wrong way.
That is not the way that you need. And my dad's like, well, I'll see you in 2030 then. Because, we are not getting together. And I just thought like that type, certainly he's not the only person who's thinking that,
Right. By the way, just on more optimism here, I want to shout out Colleen. She sent us pictures from the pharmacy out in Saddlebrook, Arizona, in the retirement community there. It's called the Desert Life Pharmacy, and they are just dominating. They're doing, crazy vaccinations. She sent us pictures of all of the retired folks that are out and lined up in their golf carts getting their jabs. So I just wanted to, people are doing real good, and I just want to I want to shout it out whenever we can.
My sister-in-law actually got the vaccine yesterday. She called a few pharmacies near her apartment and just said, do you have any extra at the end of the day? And they said no. Earlier this week, they said no, but we'll take your name and number and we'll call you if we do. She never thought she was going to get a call. She got a call yesterday, and they were like, "We have a vaccine. Come on in." Went in, got the vaccine. Going to go back in 3 weeks and get the second. I mean,
fantastic.
That warms my heart, right? That they're doing that. So.
One other thing, actually, Jill, because again, I've heard from other people, especially people sort of our age and younger, who are like, I feel guilty. I may be eligible for the vaccine, but I feel like I shouldn't get it because it's not, I'm still sort of working from home. If you're eligible, get it.
Yes.
It's simple. It is simple as that, right? Remember what we said before. Like it's your social responsibility. It's the young and healthy people that transmit this virus more than the elderly. So it's really, it is a social good for you to get it.
D.C., meanwhile, on high alert today because of a QAnon conspiracy theory that suggests this is the day that former President Trump will triumphantly return to office. The Capitol Police said they got intelligence suggesting an unidentified militia group would target the building, which is, by the way, still behind razor wire fencing. The House will not be in session today because of the threat, although the Senate will meet.
It's hard for me to imagine how they could possibly do anything today, given what you just said, which is the Capitol's basically behind all of the security that wasn't there on January 6th. But this was interesting yesterday. The head of the D.C. National Guard testified to Congress, and he said that he had the authority to deploy troops against protesters last summer. But that authority was for some reason taken away from him in the days before the January 6th riot at the Capitol. He said that in his 19-year career, he had never seen that approval process change on a whim like that. And I thought that was really interesting. I'm really not trying to be like a conspiracy theorist here, but there is this mind-boggling unanswered question 2 months later here. And the fact that nobody at the Department of Defense or the White House has ever explained it is just going to, I think, continue to make it fester. Why was the National Guard kept from immediately responding with troops to a coup attempt in progress on January 6th? Can somebody please answer that question for me? Because it seems relevant.
In other news, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo emerging for the first time in public since those allegations of sexual harassment against him started to emerge. So he apologized in an emotional statement. He said he never meant to make anyone feel uncomfortable and that he is deeply embarrassed by his actions. But he said he would not resign from office despite sporadic but growing calls from fellow Democrats for him to step down. He seemed sincere.
He was certainly contrite. That was the press conference that you give, I think, if you expect more stuff to come out. I think that the crisis management, from what I've gathered, is if you think that you can get through it, you basically you put out a statement and then you just power through. That's what Justin Trudeau did with the blackface stuff. That's what Ralph Northam in Virginia did with his blackface scandal. So I think that the belief is that more women are going to come forward and accuse him of improper touching and whatnot. Though I do believe he's not going anywhere. Also, not for nothing, but isn't it incredible to what an extent Donald Trump was held to a completely different standard than everybody else? I'm not trying to do one of these like whataboutisms, because I really hate when people do that. But it is, you gotta mention it. It's like, how many women made credible accusations against the former president of sexual harassment or worse, and not a single Republican, I believe, ever called for him to resign over any of that. It was like it just never happened.
And forgetting even just on this issue, a lot of people have pointed out, with Neera Tandem and her nomination, and we talked about yesterday on the podcast that she asked them to officially withdraw it. She asked the Biden administration to officially withdraw it because there was a lot of concern about some of the tweets that she had sent that were not nice. And a lot of women especially have pointed out that this criticism feels somewhat misogynistic. You had the president basically tweeting like bullying via Twitter for more than 4 years, and no one said a word.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely true. We hold people to completely different standards. It's especially true in between Democrats and Republicans. And Democrats, I think, if they want to play in the, just go. I don't know. I'm just annoyed. Sorry.
Well, listen, more things. Okay, so we interviewed on Cheddar yesterday the Albany reporter, I think, for Newsday, and he was saying, we were like, are more allegations going to, or is the expectation here that more allegations are going to come out? And he said, every journalist in Albany and beyond is digging right now, trying to find something. And if you dig, you sometimes you do hit on something. So, he met, and a lot of this is just not he said, she said, but, if this was sort of his MO and it made people feel uncomfortable, it is a gray area, but, there might be, there are more women who are going to come out. We'll see. But I would, I want to do something that no one tends to do anymore, and withhold judgment. Like, let's see what the facts are, right? The Attorney General's office is going to be investigating this. Let's see what they find.
Yeah, you're right.
We want to mention this latest speculative asset class. Okay, so we're totally switching gears here. That has taken the tech, art, crypto world by storm. When Kings of Leon, why am I not pronouncing Kings of Leon?
Kings of Leon.
Yeah,
remember them?
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with me. I feel like you're looking at me like I just mispronounced Bruce Springsteen. When Kings of Leon drops its new album tomorrow, it will be the band's first in 4 years. It will be available in one brand new format, an NFT, or a non-fungible token. NFTs are all the rage right now. So, Carlo, we were talking about this a little bit on our Clubhouse chat last week, but please take a stab at explaining what this is.
All right, so this is a little bit this is complicated, but NFTs are basically any piece of unique digital information that's not interchangeable. So it can be a GIF, it can be a video, it can be a song or an album. But the trendy thing right now is to use NFTs as ways to sell and collect art. So they work off the Ethereum blockchain. They can be traded like baseball cards or pretty much any other collectible. The question, of course, why would you invest in something digital, which by nature can be copied forever, right? As opposed to like a painting, right? A Monet has an intrinsic value. A digital copy of a Monet has no value. You can get it on Google. Especially because NFTs don't actually transfer the copyright or the intellectual property to the buyer. But the buyer does get the metadata, which does have intrinsic value on the blockchain. I don't know if you're still following this. It's complicated, and honestly, I don't even really comprehend it. But people are making real money on these NFTs. Grimes, the singer who's the wife of Elon Musk, she made $6 million the other day selling art. Selling her art collection as an NFT. Somebody, I don't know who, somebody paid $600,000 for an NFT of a meme that's just a GIF of a cat with a rainbow body. So it's definitely something that is making people real money. The Verge did a very good explainer, better than what I could do, which I linked to the newsletter today if this is something that interests you. But it's definitely, just when you hear that word NFT, at least now you know, sort of at least, what people are talking about.
All right, some more royal drama. The British tabloids are running wild with the story in the Times of London about bullying allegations against Meghan Markle. So the allegations are that the Duchess, quote, drove two personal assistants out of Kensington Palace when she was an official royal and undermined the confidence of a third. Markle's spokesperson calls the story a calculated smear campaign timed to coincide with her and Prince Harry's upcoming Oprah interview. But in a very unusual public response, Buckingham Palace says it's going to be launching an investigation into the bullying claims against the Duchess.
I was really struck by that. I wasn't really following the story that much until I saw the Buckingham Palace actually came out. So this is reading from the Buckingham Palace statement. Our HR team will look into the circumstances outlined in the article. Members of staff involved at the time, including those who have left the household, will be invited to participate to see if lessons can be learned. End quote. And then they say they take the allegations of bullying very seriously. That's unusual. That's not like the royal family. Usually they say no comment to these things. We don't comment on personnel matters, personal lives of the royals, anything like that. So reading between the lines, there is a real rift between Buckingham Palace and Meghan and Harry, which we sort of already knew, but this really, I think, puts it out into the open. I mean, Buckingham Palace didn't put a statement out when it came out that Prince Andrew was a known associate of Jeffrey Epstein, but they put one out about some like random bullying allegations against Meghan Markle. Jill, this is making me go full Meghan hive. I was sort of like I was sort of sick of her and Harry for a while, but this woman has been treated like just absolute garbage in the British press at every step. No wonder they cut bait and moved to Southern California.
You know what? And I'm with you. I was sort of like I think when we heard that her and Harry had when she and Harry had a
Netflix,
podcast deal, we were just leave us, stop coming after our industry, people.
Yeah, right.
But I'm with you, and Prince Harry won me over with his James Corden segment, and I'm very excited to watch the Oprah interview. The timing of this in terms of we're learning now about these bullying allegations. Something's a little off here. But before we go, every year our friends over at Motherly conduct their State of Motherhood survey to better understand what's on the minds of moms across America, their experiences, and their general state of mind. This year's survey, more important than ever, given what families and moms especially have been through since the start of the pandemic. So if you are a mom, we are asking you to take the 15-minute survey and just make your voice heard. You'll be entered to win a $500 gift card, but more importantly, the survey results will help the world know the true story of motherhood in 2020 and 2021, which, needless to say, has been a rough one.
So Jill and I are both going to tweet the link to this survey this morning, today's newsletter, and you can also find it at motherly.com. And like Jill said, if you are a mom, they're especially interested in what women of color have been through this last year. So if you are a person of color and you're a mom, go take that survey. Any mom, just go take the survey, right? It can't hurt to make your voice heard.
Look, it's been it's the last thing I'll say. It's been a particularly, as we know, rough year for everybody, but especially for parents and women have been just hit even harder in terms of job loss
Yep.
and being forced out of the workforce. The reason surveys like this are important is because they do help form policy, right? So if you
Yeah.
are a lawmaker and you're trying to figure out what can actually be done to help women, you need to know, especially moms, you need to know where their head is, what kind of help they do need, what they're thinking about. So you take a survey like this, make your voice heard, and perhaps it'll make a difference in terms of policy and help that'll come from DC for moms.
You're here.
Okay, that is it for today. That's what you need to know for Thursday, March 4th.
See you guys tomorrow.